Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, what we're really getting under the hood of maybe one of the most incredible endurance athletes on the planet.
We are. We're looking at the actual physiological numbers of Tadej Pogacar, the elite Grand Tour cycling champion.
And this isn't speculation. This is based on some pretty rare data, right? Stuff he's shared himself.
Exactly. It's largely from a really insightful interview he gave, and then you have analyses from places like the 5K runner, which did a fantastic job synthesizing it all.
Great site, yeah. So our mission today is basically to unpack that. What makes this engine tick? What are the secrets to his performance and, maybe just as importantly, his recovery?
Absolutely. And we should probably start with the number that just jumps off the page, the one that makes even seasoned pros shake their heads.
You mean his aerobic power, that zone 2 stuff?
Precisely. Forget the sprints for a moment. It's what he can sustain almost comfortably. That's just mind-blowing. We'll get deep into that.
Okay, but before we hit the power, you need the context, right? The sort of operating range of the heart itself, max and resting rates.
Yeah, you need the floor and the ceiling first. So let's talk maximum heart rate, HR max. He's been tracking this stuff for a long time.
Since he was pretty young, I gather.
Yeah, as a junior, he apparently hit 213 beats per minute. Just think about that.
213, that's incredibly high.
It is. Very elastic young heart. Now, more recently, like the day before this key interview, he mentioned hitting 203 BPM.
Okay, so a drop of 10 beats, is that significant? Or just, getting a tiny bit older?
It's mostly physiological maturation, I think. What's key is that 203 is still, as he put it, still pretty high. He seemed quite happy with it.
And that high ceiling gives him a massive range to work within.
Exactly. It allows for those huge power numbers we'll talk about later. It's the upper limit of his system.
All right, so that's the top end. What about the bottom? Resting heart rate, RHR.
This is where you see the efficiency. His lowest ever recorded RHR since he started tracking was 37 BPM.
37, wow.
Yeah. But day to day, or rather night to night, his average is usually around 42 to 43 BPM.
Which signifies incredible cardiac efficiency, right? Pumping a lot of blood with each beat.
That's the hallmark of elite aerobic fitness. Maximum output, minimum effort when resting.
And how does he actually use that RHR number? Is it just a vanity metric?
Oh, no, it's practical. He uses it as a red flag. If that nightly average jumps up, say, to 48, 49, or especially over 50, he knows something's up. Either he's getting sick or he's carrying some serious fatigue from training. It's a simple built-in alarm system.
Okay, so basic HR gives him the range and a fatigue warning. That leads nicely into heart rate variability, HRV, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, well, it's a bit more complex.
It is, yeah. And his relationship with HRV is interesting, too. He apparently started tracking it around 2020, but was pretty skeptical at first, said he didn't find it very helpful.
Right. A lot of people find it confusing. The numbers can swing wildly.
Exactly. But he came back to it more recently, this past year, and said he quite likes it now, but he's learned to interpret it carefully.
And his range is huge, right? What did the sources say?
Yeah, on a good day, he might hit 120, 130, maybe even peak up near 150 for his HRV score.
But it can also plummet.
Right down. He mentioned seeing it as low as 35, possibly after, having a drink or something similar. Non-training stress impacts it massively.
So that huge variation could be misleading day to day. But what about during something like the Tour de France?
Ah, see, that's what's fascinating. During those huge multi-week efforts, the Giro or the Tour, his HRV apparently stays remarkably stable, typically averaging somewhere between 80 and 110 every single day.
That level of stability under that kind of crushing load, that's almost unbelievable.
It speaks to just insane recovery capacity. His body is finding equilibrium night after night. But the real gem here, the thing I think listeners can really take away, is the mental side of how he uses it.
Okay. What do you mean?
He noticed that seeing a low HRV number first thing in the morning could get in your head a little bit. It could plant that seed of doubt before a big stage.
Ah, the self-fulfilling prophecy. You see a bad number, you expect to feel bad, so you do.
Exactly. So his solution was brilliant, really. He had his girlfriend check his HRV score after the race was done.
Get the data for later analysis, but don't let it mess with your head on race day. That's smart.
It's managing the psychological load, not just the physical. Collect the data, yes, but use it strategically. Don't let it undermine your confidence when you need it most.
That's a fantastic insight. Okay, let's pivot now to the power. The zone 2 numbers that kind of define his engine.
Right. This is where things get, well, humbling for the rest of us. He defines his zones by feel, heart rate, and power, balancing all three.
And is zone 2 that sustainable aerobic zone? What are the numbers?
When he's feeling fresh, his heart rate in zone 2 is around 155 BPM.
Okay, quite high for zone 2, but within elite ranges. And the power at that HR.
Get this, 320 to 340 watts.
Whoa. Okay, wait, 340 watts as his aerobic zone.
That's what the data suggests. I mean, Peter Attia in his commentary basically said sustaining 320 to 340 watts for 5 hours is really remarkable. And it is. That's threshold power for many very good riders.
And he can just cruise at that for hours.
Apparently so, when fresh. But here's maybe the most remarkable part, something the 5K runner piece really highlighted, how it changes when he's fatigued.
Okay, what happens then? Does the power drop off?
No, that's the thing. The power stays the same, still 320 to 340 watts, but his heart rate actually drops to maintain it, down to maybe 140 to 145 BPM.
His heart rate goes down for the same massive power output when he's tired. How does that work? That seems backward.
It's called decoupling, but in his case, it's like decoupling in reverse, or rather a sign of extreme efficiency. Usually when fatigued, your HR drifts up for the same power because your system is less efficient.
Right, cardiac drift.
Yeah, but for him to hold that huge wattage with a suppressed heart rate, it means his muscles are incredibly efficient at using oxygen and fuel. His metabolic engine is just attuned to an unbelievable degree. Less cardiovascular strain for world-class work output, even when tired.
That's difficult to comprehend. But even he can't do that day after day in a 3-week race without consequences, right? He has to manage it.
Absolutely. And this shows his intelligence as an athlete. He talked about specific scenarios, like, say, a long 5-hour flat training ride. If he knows he needs top recovery for a hard session the next day, he won't push that 320, 340 watt zone 2, even though he physically can.
Why not, if it's technically his zone 2?
Because the cumulative fatigue, the recovery cost would be too high. It would compromise the next day's quality. So on those specific rides, he'll deliberately back it off, maybe riding at 290 or 300 watts instead.
So he's choosing slightly less optimal training stimulus today to guarantee readiness for a key session tomorrow. That's sophisticated load management.
It really is. It shows he's thinking long-term, race-term, not just about maximizing every single ride. He trusts his body's response over just hitting a number.
Which actually leads perfectly into his broader training philosophy, doesn't it? What tools does he trust most?
It does. And the big theme seems to be a deep trust in his own body and the metrics he's known the longest. He's been using a heart rate monitor since he was like 10 or 12 years old.
So decades of data.
Exactly. And he actually expressed a preference for HR over power meters, which might surprise some people.
Yeah, power meters are kind of the gold standard now. Why the skepticism?
He mentioned reliability issues, things like temperature changes affecting accuracy, calibration drift, just general sensor fussiness. Compared to that, his heart rate is this consistent internal signal he's understood for years.
So he kind of calibrates the power meter to his trusted heart rate zones, not the other way around.
That seems to be the implication. The HR is the anchor.
Okay, interesting. What about other metrics? Does he track climbing performance specifically?
Oh yeah, he uses VAM velocità ascensionale media. Average ascent speed, basically meters climbed per hour, a classic cycling metric, especially for climbers.
And his numbers there.
He said he can hit 1,700 to 1,800 VAM on a reasonably steep climb, like 7 to 7.5% gradient, going full gas for about 15 minutes.
And for context, what's considered elite for VAM?
Well, getting over 1,600 is world-class. Consistently hitting 1,700 or 1,800, especially for 15 minutes, that's rarefied air, especially considering his weight, which is around 69 kilos in the off-season. It just confirms that explosive climbing power.
So the huge aerobic base, that zone 2 power, translates directly into world-beating climbing speed. Makes sense. What about formal lab testing? Does he do standard VO2 max or FTP tests?
Apparently not so much anymore. He said he hasn't done a true VO2 max test or a standard 20-minute FTP test in quite a while.
Really? So how does he benchmark his fitness or set zones formally?
His approach sounds more tailored. He uses home trainer tests, but they involve these 10-minute steps of increasing power. And the key is he's taking lactate readings from his earlobe every 5 minutes during these steps.
Lactate testing. So he's mapping his metabolic response directly.
Exactly. Pinpointing those thresholds where lactate starts to accumulate rapidly, it gives a much more detailed picture of his actual physiological zones than a simple FTP test would. He also mentioned doing structured fatigue tests, like repeating 8-minute blocks of increasing power, ending in an all-out effort specifically to see how his system performs under duress.
It sounds incredibly precise, but focused on his specific responses, not just standard protocols.
That's the impression. Highly individualized.
Okay, so pulling this all together.
Yeah.
We have the low resting heart rate, the high max, the stable HRV under pressure, that incredible zone 2 power and efficiency, the massive VAM, the reliance on HR and lactate. What's the big takeaway here?
I think the core lesson is that his success is this blend of, frankly, abnormal physiology that 340W Zone 2 is just a gift.
Right, you can't just train that from average.
Probably not to that level, no. But it's paired with incredibly smart self-management. He uses the data, but he's not a slave to it. He trusts his body, trusts his long-term HR data, and makes strategic choices, like backing off power for recovery.
And he knows when the data itself might be detrimental, like checking HRV before a race.
Precisely. That might be the biggest lesson for everyone listening. You know, the analysts all agree. You need the genetics and the insane commitment to training to be a champion, no doubt.
But what can we learn?
The transferable skill is that mental management of data. If tracking your sleep or your HRV or even your weight starts making you anxious before a big day, whether it's a race, a presentation, whatever, think about Pogacar's tactic. Could you arrange to check those numbers after the event? Get the benefit of the data for long-term learning, but shield your confidence in the crucial moments. Separating the objective analysis from the subjective execution, that's a powerful strategy, regardless of your watts.
Don't let the numbers get in your head when performance counts. That's a great final thought to leave people with. Thanks for breaking all that down.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.